Everyone, welcome back. Last time we were taking a look at Brunelleschi's dome, and I was showing you a couple of videos just to consider about the height of the dome and the width of the base. And the last image I was showing you was this one with me walking around the at the very base of the dome. But again, it's like 170, 180 feet wide. It's just ginormous. And there's a bit of a glass shield in there, making sure that people don't jump off it. And then you can see the interior of the dome that's been painted to make it a functional actual dome. And as you can see, I mean, it looks like an oculus, very reminiscent of the Pantheon in Rome. But it's actually not. It's not an open hole right there. It actually just leads up to what looks to be a bell tower, and it has lights all the way around it. And so the lights shine in, that makes it look like there's an oculus there, but it's not quite the same. But let's take a look at Brunelleschi's design and how he's able to complete this massive feat. What he decided to do is he decided to, rather than just do the whole thing like a dome, to do something like Gothic architecture. And so he actually used contemporary technology, but then applied it in a way that made it look like ancient technology. And so he used these Gothic arches, and he just put 8 of them around there. So it's kind of more of an octagon than an actual official dome. But this was going to help support the weight of the actual dome. And then so these are mainly on the inside. These arches, this series of arches that go all the way around the main 8 here. And then he designs. This is where it does become quite ingenuitive, an interlocking brick system, where he is locking them together to make them self-supporting, and so they don't need any other supporting methods. And so through the inner shell and the outer shell, he was able to so the idea of the inner shell and the outer shell was to create this self-supporting, self-sustaining dome. But it was an impressive feat. It took 16 years to build, with people working 6 days a week, 14-hour days. He would even provide lunch for them, so they wouldn't have to climb all the way down and climb all the way back up after lunch and be exhausted, right? And what was also impressive about the technology that he used was he had to develop this pulley system in order to transport the weight of the bricks all the way to the top. And so that in of itself was a feat for his day. But another interesting side note about the dome is that all of the models that he would create. So as an architect, you create models to make sure everything works. All the models he would create with the dome actually broke. They would fall through. His models wouldn't work, and so it was actually quite. I don't know. He was a little bit on pins and needles of whether it would actually pull off, but he did. But as you can see here with the inner shell and the outer shell, and you can actually walk in between them. As we see here, this is me going up to the top, and this. These stairs just kind of snake around the entire, just kind of go up around, spiral around the dome. And it's probably about 4 feet, 3.5, 4 feet wide, really narrow. And then while you're going up, other people are coming down at the same time, because there's not like an upstairs and a to go up and a stairs to go down. It's all one. And so it's cramped quarters all the way through, and this just kind of gives you a sense, right? So we're just walking in between the inner shell and the outer shell to get all the way to the top. And those that are patient and persevering are awarded with just an impressive view of Italy and of Florence and the Tuscan region. And so here you can see. Just looking out at, this is Giotto's bell tower, which is right out front. And then right in front of this, just towards the ground, in this open courtyard here, there's the Florence Baptistry, where Ghiberti was working on his doors. And then over here, just over to the right, you will see this dome here. This came later. This is the Medici Chapel, and so they decided to later to build their own place, because after all, you don't want to go to church with common people. So they had their own chapel, and then they they commissioned Michelangelo to do a couple of the tombs inside their chapel. So we'll kind of get back to that story. But again, just kind of another view, another angle of it. And my wife and I, as we were completely exhausted by the time we get to the top. But you can just see how it just dominates the Florence skyline. That it just is this symbol of humanity's achievement. This is humanity's ability to use science and technology to go back to the ancients, to learn some truths that they have found and apply them within the modern world. And this is one of it was at the time the largest cathedral in the world, and it's still, I think, in the top 10. But it was a way of showing the rest of the world that Florence has the science, the technology, the culture, that they are, at the top of the heap. And cathedrals in most, towns, at least in Europe, are a way of showing their piety, right? So their religious devotion, but it's also kind of a way of showing off, right? As a way of saying, hey, this is our cathedral. This is kind of like a downtown area in the U.S. It's kind of their showpiece, right? What they would use to identify themselves, and so this becomes the symbol of Florence. But it also is a way of influencing, culture beyond, right? As we take a look at the developing government in the United States, we are constantly using domes, and we're constantly using this Greco-Roman style, which Brunelleschi brings back to life during the Renaissance. And so we owe a lot of the tribute of our own architecture to Brunelleschi. If you take a look at the U.S. Capitol, for instance, it looks a lot like a pagan temple, right? But the idea is that they're going back to ancient Greece and Rome and bringing the values of democracy and representative government, right? And we see that same idea in the Florida Capitol. These are all places that I've lived. Idaho Capitol, Kentucky Capitol, they all have the same kind of look and feel to them that he's bringing back. I wanted to show you a clip from Rick Steves. He does a lot of travel videos, and they're really good. They're really good to get a sense of the town, the community. He did one about Brunelleschi's dome. I just wanted to show you this one because it really is interesting as he kind of takes us in through his videos, which is kind of more immersive to be able to feel and experience what it's like.
The Renaissance lasted roughly 2 centuries. The High Renaissance, or 1500s, is well known for the work of Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael. But the first half of the Renaissance, the 1400s, is often overlooked. While the main structure of the Florence Cathedral is medieval, its remarkable dome and much of the art decorating its facade, baptistry, and bell tower defined this first century of the Renaissance. The Duomo, that's Italian for cathedral, is huge, the largest anywhere when finished in the 15th century, and still in the top 20. The church's claim to fame is its dome, the first of the Renaissance, and the first great dome built in Europe in over 1,000 years. The church was built in Gothic times, but rather than being capped by another spire, it was left with a gaping hole, waiting for technology to catch up with the city's vision. In 1420, Filippo Brunelleschi won the job and built the dome that kicked off the architectural Renaissance. Brunelleschi's dome, which inspired those that followed from the Vatican to the U.S. Capitol, showed how art and science could be combined to make beauty. And today, it rewards those who climb to the top with a grand Florence view. While the Duomo's architecture and statues are impressive, the baptistry, across from the cathedral, is centuries older. The baptistry is separate because in medieval times you couldn't enter the church until you were baptized. Its interior glitters with Byzantine-style mosaics created in the 13th century, long before the Renaissance. These vivid scenes, bringing countless Bible stories to life, inspired the medieval faithful. Jesus sits at the center of it all, overlooking creation on Judgment Day. He gives the ultimate thumbs up and thumbs down. On his right, Angel Gabriel blows his trumpet, bringing good news to the saved. And on the thumbs down side, well, you don't want to go there. Some say the Renaissance began in 1401 over the excitement caused by a citywide competition to design and build new doors for the baptistry. Lorenzo Ghiberti won the commission and spent decades working on this project. These bronze panels, Ghiberti's Gates of Paradise, were revolutionary in their realism. By utilizing the mathematical laws of perspective, Ghiberti helped give the art world a whole new dimension: depth. He pulled out all the stops to create maximum three-dimensionality. The tiles have lines which converge to a vanishing point. The bench is foreshortened to accentuate the depth. Elements are added to establish a foreground distinct from the middle and background. The effect? As viewers, we become part of the scene. While the panels, like most of the art you see outside these days, are copies, the originals of the cathedral's greatest treasures are stored safely out of the elements in the adjacent Cathedral Museum.
So hopefully you're getting a sense of what it would be like to be there, and as they say, out of the mouth of two witnesses, two or more witnesses, he gives a kind of a sense of what the 15th century Renaissance was like. Brunelleschi was also commissioned to complete the chapel inside the San Lorenzo in Florence, and he decided to create a kind of a pagan type of chapel. And so this is, even though it's focusing on Christianity, the idea was to represent something that was more in line with the interior of the Pantheon, right? So the kind of the plain, kind of just the walls are just there, and then we have the columns, and then just the focus on the arches, and then the dome. And so he was really interested in just trying to recreate the values of ancient Rome to make it look like you're just walking into a Roman ruin or something like that. And a sacristy, just to give you a sense of what a sacristy is where a priest prepares. And this one is the Notre Dame sacristy, just to give you a juxtaposition of what the medieval sacristies inside the church would look like versus Brunelleschi's own design, to give you that juxtaposition. And then another building that he creates is the hospital in Florence, and the Fontanarossa Hospital is mainly it was created for a civic purpose to serve as a public orphanage. And he demonstrates the mathematical precision with the height of the columns being 10 feet, which is equal to the diameter of the arches. And so focuses on mathematical precision, the focus on the columns to make it seem as though you're walking into ancient Rome. And then the last one I just want to show you, this one is later. This one's about 100 years later. Palladio is the architect here. And he wanted to continue, Brunelleschi's tradition of going back to classics. And here he creates this Villa Rotunda, which is generally supposed to be a working farm. But here he makes it more look like a Roman temple. And focusing on mathematical precision, right? So you have the circle, the dome at the top, and then the square where you have the eternal and the earthly realm coming together in harmony, and then each side has the porches that come out to focus on that mathematical precision, right? So again, the ideas of Plato coming in handy, where math is the language of God, and if we can understand, these mathematical principles, we can come closer to God and come closer to His creations.